Dragon Ball and more pulled from shelves amid Texas censorship bill. Posted on September 9th, 2025, only a few hours ago. Oh my goodness, man. Oh my goodness. We're actually at this point. We're at this point. Now, there's a lot of context that I need to give to this story. First off, before I go any further, let's read this article, and then I'm going to read another article that this, article is pulling its source from. So let's start off. Retailers are already reacting to a recent Texas bill by pulling manga from shelves, including issues of Dragon Ball and more. The bill SB20 appears to have noble intentions, with language going after generative AI being used to create material which simulates realistic children. However, the bill also includes vague references to cartoons. As previously reported, there are plenty of manga and anime which could hypothetically run afoul of this bill, while anime featuring fan service or sexual content such as Goblin Slayer are obviously targets. Retro anime which features casual nudity is also on the chopping block. For anyone familiar, it's a running gag in the original Dragon Ball for a young Goku just to run around completely in his birthday suit. As a result, at least one retailer made the decision to pull these earlier volumes from shelves and be more restrictive on what he will allow customers to order. This is what the actual retailer stated. This is his statement. There's so much media nowadays. You can't watch every single thing or read everything, so I don't know what characters are shown inappropriately, at what ages, and what not. It would definitely be more like in-detail research on certain franchises if they're going to be affected or not. SB20 was signed into law this past June, and to our knowledge, there have yet to be any cases which test it constitutionally. So, there is some context that is missing within this article. This article, which is where, Niche here is pulling his sources from, he's pulling his information from this. This is an article that also came out today, and the article is titled, Anime Fans Express Concerns Over Impact of New Texas Law. There's even a news story by NBC, as you can see here, I'll play this in a moment, but the article more or less outlines the exact same thing that Niche talks about, but there is more clarity here. And one thing in particular that I need to just straight up talk about is the fact that it wasn't law enforcement or even SB20 that caused the retailer to remove Dragon Ball. That's not what happened. What happened was, thanks to the law's inception, thanks to it being passed, and thanks to just the cryptic nature of the law and just how it, is very vague, basically, the retailer preemptively removed content that might get him arrested or in trouble or whatever. Obviously is yet to be contacted by police or anything like that, but the retailer decided to take stuff down like Dragon Ball, for instance, just to play on the safe side. And in this video I'm going to show in a second, they just straight up admit that. They don't watch everything, they don't read everything, and so they just started taking things down just willy-nilly because they didn't want to potentially face any charges, crimes, or whatever. So, more or less, to get into the meat of the situation, the government did not tell him to remove it. But it is thanks to the bill being passed that caused it. And this, more or less, is what we can call a chilling effect. I've talked about this previously in other censorship videos, but when there is a situation of vague laws that come out throughout the world, so to speak, there is an effect to where people don't know what's a landmine and what's not. They don't know if they're walking into a minefield or if it's actually safe when they allow something to be sold or put into their shop. And so in this case, because of the nature around the bill and how a lot of people have talked about how vague it is, it leads to this situation where there's a chilling effect to where people will start to actively self-censor themselves. That's more or less what's going on here. So pretty much the retailer went out of his way to self-censor himself out of fear. And this is something that has obviously happened in a lot of different areas online, not just with, let's say, censorship of, like, anime and manga, but, like, we can think of content creation in general. There's a lot of people that tiptoe around certain things when it comes to creating videos, either on YouTube, TikTok, or whatever. Like, for instance, the whole thing with unalived. Like, oh, this person unalived or whatever. You have these coded words that are used to get around bans, censorship, demonetization, and stuff like that. And so when you factor all this stuff in, it's very obvious. It's like people have this chilling effect where they'll start to, actually use different words or censor themselves willy-nilly out of fear, even if it theoretically won't get them in trouble. That's what's going on here. So, anyways, to get to the point, there isn't an open lawsuit or criminal thing right now, but obviously there is fear spreading. However, let's play this video because I do think it's pretty important to kind of see what the retailer was selling.
The law says it doesn't matter whether it's an image of an actual child, a cartoon, or animation.
Now you can see they're selling
like,
Miku figures, for instance. Here he is.
Against AI generating inappropriate stuff like that. By all means, it doesn't need to do that. But yeah, it is going to affect things that had no intention in that way whatsoever.
On its final reading in May of this year, SB20 passed the House in a 139-0 vote. Andrew Balderas, the manager at Kaboom Comics in Weslaco, says there was some online discussion about the bill as it made its way through the legislature, and that's when he began looking into how it might impact his business.
You can see he sells a bunch of different manga and stuff, as you can see there, even Berserk. Obviously, like, I'm going to assume he's going to take Berserk off the shelf as well. I would assume so.
Saw people
because
posting that it was going to be affecting a lot of anime manga stuff because they would show, culturally inappropriate things on certain characters and stuff. So it would fall underneath that bill. And then that's when I realized that it was going to affect.
That means that if he's going down the self-censorship route, that means he's going to theoretically have to remove some of these figures. Like Nami, for instance. I forget what age Nami is. I don't think she's 18, technically, in the manga. I could be wrong. Don't quote me on that one. I believe she's 17. But regardless, I would assume he's probably going to take down maybe Nami figures or something.
Stuff here.
The law makes it a state.
Ah, yes, Shantae. By the way, very good game. If you've never played Shantae, you really should play it. But, yeah, I'm going to assume just because of the current situation, how people like to self-censor and the type of series Shantae is, I could definitely see him trying to self-censor Shantae as well.
Jail felony for first-time offenders with more severe penalties for repeated violations. It's also eligible for prosecution under laws related to organized criminal activity. Balderas says very few customers have asked about the law, but there have been discussions within the company about how to make sure...
Wait, go back. I've seen these figures, by the way, at, like, my local, like, retailer. That was my Discord, by the way, it wasn't you. But I've seen, these figures. I really, really want this one on the right. I really want that. Obviously, I'm not going to buy it. I need to save money. But I really want that figure. It looks just so cute, man. It's so cute.
About how to make sure they're in compliance.
There's so much media nowadays, it's hard to tell. You can't watch every single thing and read everything, so I don't know what characters are shown inappropriately at what ages and whatnot. It will definitely be more like in detail research on certain franchises on if they're going to be affected or not.
Balderas says he's already pulled some volumes of the popular Japanese comic book.
If you know, you know. If you know, you know. If he's pulling volumes and stuff because of questionable things, if you know, you know about one of these figures. That's all I'll say. So, to make a long story short, pretty much the video is the retailer admitting to why he took it down because of the bill. He isn't being sued or being thrown in jail or anything like that, but he's doing it out of precaution. That's more or less what's going on. So, that's pretty much about it. There is definitely some misinformation spreading about it, and a lot of people think that he's getting jailed or arrested. That is not the case, and a lot of people assume it's multiple stores or multiple shelves, which I guess technically, by wording, if he has multiple volumes in different shelves, the wording isn't wrong, but obviously the way this article is written, it's intentionally meant to sound like it's multiple stores. That's what it sounds like. But regardless, it's one store, no one was arrested, but Dragon Ball got hit first. Wow, like, it's just ironic. It's super ironic to me, because the Dragon Ball fans, for those that would think, like, don't get me wrong, I love Dragon Ball, okay? But Dragon Ball fans are like those that were fine with the censorship. I saw a lot of them fine with some censorship of content and what's been going on in the last month and a half. It's interesting that Dragon Ball is the one to get self-censored first. Who would have thought? Anyways, I'll leave it at that. If you enjoy my content, please subscribe. It does help me out quite a bit, and I would appreciate it. Leave a comment. Helps with the algorithm. Chibi out.